It keeps getting more and more funny, this Texas A&M NIL stuff. We've got another story. It says here, Pennsylvania Big 33 team loses a defensive tackle and Texas A&M signee, Enai White. Now, if you're not familiar with Enai White, this is a former top 50 overall prospect, not a 5-star, but still a top 50 overall prospect, pass rusher from the 2022 class, the number 47 overall player in the composite. Now, if you're not familiar with recruiting, the number 47 overall player, that's a borderline elite kid. That is near 5-star level. And I believe this kid, if he would have committed to Ohio State, he would have been the best defensive lineman Ohio State signed in 2022. Why do that when you could be the 5th best defensive lineman for Texas A&M? But Jimbo Fisher never cheated. No, this is totally legitimate. So yeah, he was, I believe, the 5th best, maybe even the 6th best defensive lineman and the number 47th overall prospect. But this story is hilarious. You take a look, it says a Friday release stated that Enai White, one of the state's top prospects in the class of 2022, has been replaced with another defensive tackle. According to the release from an official with the Pennsylvania High School Football Coaches Association, White was told by Texas A&M that his name, image, likeness money would be withheld if he participated in the Memorial Day event. So in essence, if this kid played in this event, he would not get his NIL money from Texas A&M. The whole thing is pretty hilarious. The idea that, but Jimbo Fisher said, no, they never paid for a player. And then I heard from someone that Jimbo's now saying they only paid for one player. The whole thing is getting just ridiculous. And this really leads to the question, who is advising Jimbo Fisher to keep making these ridiculous statements? If I was Jimbo's advisor, I would say, listen, Jimbo, sit down and shut up. Everybody knows you cheated. Everybody knows you weaponized NIL. It's no secret. You got away with it. Let it go. You just look like a bigger clown, and the story drags on and on and on. The more this gets brought up, there was no reason he should have responded to Nick Saban's criticism of him. If you're Jimbo Fisher, you say, listen, look at my recruiting class. My recruiting class speaks for itself. I don't have to engage with Nick Saban. But of course, Jimbo and his ego do. He completely lies and says, we didn't pay for a single player. Now there's stories coming out about this kid wasn't even a 5-star. This kid's probably getting a 7-figure NIL deal from Texas A&M and their boosters. Remember, Texas A&M, they were their program that bragged about spending $25 million on their recruiting class. They've since walked it back since Jimbo wants to be like, we didn't pay anyone. So now they're like, no, we didn't spend $25 million. They were bragging about it. They were literally bragging about it when National Signing Day came for the 2022 class and saying, yeah, our boosters paid $25 million. And I think that's lowballing how much they paid for these kids. But, and then Jimbo comes out and says, we didn't pay for a single player. And recently, someone was telling me, Jimbo's like, we only played for only one kid has an NIL deal. This is completely ridiculous. Jimbo, sit down and shut up. You blatantly cheated. You blatantly weaponized NIL. Everyone knows it. That's why Saban was so pissed. But it's like, if you're advising Jimbo Fisher, listen, you cheated, dude. Stop denying it. You're making yourself look worse. You're keeping this story in the news cycle by continuing to blatantly lie and say none of these kids got NIL. This kid's not even one of your 5-stars and he got an NIL deal, and he's forced to not compete in this sort of all-star event or whatever this is because his NIL deal would be withheld if he competed in it. It is just classic at Texas A&M. What an absolute clown show. Imagine Texas A&M's locker room in a year, the locker room problems that they're probably going to have. Oh my God. What an absolute mess. I expect the real sad thing with this whole Texas A&M story, many of these kids' futures are going to get really effed up because a bunch of boosters said, come here, we'll pay you $3 million. Their development is going to get really effed up. A few of them will make it. I'm sure a few of them will be first-round picks. It's not like Texas A&M can't develop anyone into NFL players. Of course they can. But when you sign five-star defensive linemen, it's a little bit of an overkill. A little bit of an overkill. But just wanted to touch on that. Thought it was, it's kind of a funny story, but it's also kind of sad. Again, Enai White is a recruit from Pennsylvania, the number 47 overall player. Ohio State was involved with this kid. Penn State was involved with this kid. And again, if this kid went to Ohio State, he would be the highest ranked pass rusher of Ohio State's 2022 recruiting class. But again, it's just being Texas A&M's like sixth best defensive line prospect. It was probably too much to pass up for him. It's just too good of a deal. I can go to Texas A&M and be their sixth best defensive line prospect, and I'm sure I'll start in front of all those 5 stars. That's too good of a deal. Yes, because Texas A&M and their development are so much better. That's what Jimbo Fisher wants you to believe. It's such a joke. You're a cheater. Shut up. You are making it worse for yourself by continuing to blatantly lie. This dude is a pathological liar. And you've got situations like this. These stories are going to continue to trickle out with Texas A&M recruits getting with these NIL deals, and this kid basically being, if he participates in this event, being denied NIL money when Jimbo Fisher is trying to go out and say, oh, none of the kids got massive NIL deals. Such a joke. And then he says, oh, only one of them did. They all did. They all got money, and you cheated. You're not allowed to offer kids NIL contracts just to commit to a school. That's exactly what Texas A&M boosters did. They cheated. They knew they could get away with it, and they got away with it. Congratulations. Whoop-de-frickin-do. Why do you think I make videos talking about why the NCAA needs to create an NIL authority board to police this stuff, and I would retroactively bowl ban? Seriously, if Texas A&M got bowl banned tomorrow, I think it's a huge win for college football. I think everybody hates Texas A&M except Texas A&M. Like, seriously. And it's like, if you're on the side of Jimbo Fisher over Nick, I hate Nick Saban, guys. I don't like Nick Saban, but Nick Saban was correct when he was saying this is completely unsustainable, the way they're doing it, the way they're paying kids. He was correct in saying that. Now, I'm sure some of it is Nick Saban was just pissed Texas A&M got a better recruiting class than he did, because they did get a better class. And a lot of that comes from the massive NIL deals. And quite frankly, if it were a bidding war, Texas A&M, their boosters are probably going to pay more than Alabama boosters are. I think Texas would be number one in overall buying power. I think it's Texas, Texas A&M, then Ohio State, Notre Dame. But just in terms of this whole NIL deal, if you are on the side of Jimbo Fisher, I just don't think you understand how NIL recruiting dynamics work and the way that Texas A&M weaponized it. So that's my take on that whole thing. Prospect not able to compete at an event because his NIL deal could be withheld. That is, I don't even know how that works, but it's interesting. But guys, another quick thing I wanted to talk about. College football's top 20 best quarterbacks going into the 2022 season. So this is a list, and I think you look at this list. Number 1, Bryce Young. I can't really argue it. I would probably put C.J. Stroud number 1 personally, but Bryce Young just won the frickin' Heisman. That's fine. Caleb Williams at number 3. I guess he's going into a sophomore year. You're expecting improvement from his freshman season. Still going to be under Lincoln Riley. Dylan Gabriel, that's a little bit too high to me, coming off a major injury. Oklahoma still has a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. KJ Jefferson, that's far too high. That is far. The one thing I don't understand, how on this list, how is KJ Jefferson 5th? Yet Malik Cunningham is 17th. To me, they're very similar quarterbacks, and I would rank them, maybe like 10th and 11th. To me, it's a lot of disrespect to Malik Cunningham, putting him below O'Connell, Will Rogers, Cam Rising. Nothing against Cam Rising, but Malik Cunningham is far more of a dynamic quarterback. Hayden Hooker to me is overrated at number 6. Just a little bit overrated. Spencer Rattler, overrated. Tyler Van Dyke, probably properly rated at number 10. Sam Hartman, I would say that's fine. Brennan Armstrong, severely underrated. I'm a big believer in Brennan Armstrong. I would put him as a top 5 quarterback. And then Cam Rising, maybe I'd put him at like 16 or 17. Will Levis is a really interesting NFL prospect, by the way. I think you're going to start seeing Josh Allen comparisons to Will Levis. Quinn Ewers, that's just based off of potential. Jackson Dart, very similar. The USC transfer going into that Lane Kiffin offense. Anthony Richardson, very interesting prospect, but again, you're going off mainly overall. I will say this. I was just thinking about this. With Anthony Richardson and Florida, that week 1 game at home against Utah, that's like a program-changing game. If Anthony Richardson has like 5 total touchdowns, they beat Utah by like 21 at home. Could you imagine the recruits they're going to get to visit? You would hope that'd be a night game. Well, actually, I don't know. I wonder what the start time is on that game. Maybe 3:30? Because the thing is, Ohio State Notre Dame is the 7:30 game, week 1. That Utah-Florida game, if ESPN networks have it, I'm guessing that's going to be 3:30. I'm guessing that's going to be 3. I don't know, but that sucks if you're Florida. You want that to be a night game, prime time. That's going to be really early September. It's going to be hot if it's a 3:30 game. But that's like a program-changing win. If Anthony Richardson announces himself to the world, that's like a early Heisman, like September Heisman performance if Anthony Richardson goes out 5-6 total touchdowns against Utah, because Utah is going to be a top 15 team. They're going to be a top 15 team. And I think if you hate the SEC, you are heavily rooting for Utah to win that game. Heavily. If Florida wins that game, that will in turn make the SEC the overall just total power conference, because Florida would completely become a top 10, maybe 15 team with a win against Utah. And then, of course, the other week 1 game, there's actually another big week 1 game, Georgia and Oregon, which is a complete joke of a neutral site game. It's not even neutral site. It's actually in Atlanta, Georgia. Yet they call it a neutral site game. I believe Georgia is 16.5-point favorites, but I think that's the 3:30 game, if I'm not mistaken. So could the Florida-Utah game be on at noon in Gainesville in early September? It's going to be 95 degrees. That's what Texas fans were saying about the Texas-Alabama week 2 game if they have it at noon, which is 11 a.m. Central Time in Austin, Texas. It's going to be like 95 degrees on the field. That game should be at night. I think Fox is going to make it at night. I know they're big into the big noon thing, but there's been like a ton of pushback by Texas fans that the game can't be at noon. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I'm chilling. Ohio State gets their primetime game at 7:30. Love it. Notre Dame should be a massive blowout victory. They're 14-point favorites right now. That's going to be a very easy cover for Ohio State. I'm expecting like 55-21 or something like that, a win in week 1. And then Ohio State also gets another primetime game against Wisconsin in week 4. That's a great start to the season. With C.J. Stroud, you're looking at least 60 passing touchdowns this year, I would say, at least. And ESPN Analytics, the SP Plus, put out their preseason top 25, and it had Ohio State at number 1, Alabama at number 2. So overall, guys, Ohio State, I think they're the favorites for the national title right now. When you're looking at I just went on a rant. I thought I was talking about the top 20 quarterbacks here. The top 20 quarterbacks, again, guys, Dylan Gabriel, a little bit overrated at number 4, coming off a major injury. I would put him. I like Dylan Gabriel. He looked really good at UCF. That's why that injury was such a big deal early last year. But I'd probably put him at like number 7 or number 8. Hayden Hooker is too high. KJ Jefferson is too high. Spencer Rattler has talent, but he's too high at number 8. Tyler Van Dyke, I might actually move up to like number 7 or number 8. Brennan Armstrong, I would definitely move up. Honestly, Anthony Richardson, I might move up. Same thing with Malik Cunningham. But again, players like Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, and Anthony Richardson, they're all projections. We haven't seen these guys. This is all based off of the recruiting. Quinn Ewers, number 1 overall player. How will he do? It'll be interesting. But guys, that's just a very interesting, top 20 quarterbacks. To me, I would go Stroud number 1, Bryce Young number 2. I do think you have to probably put at this point Caleb Williams number 3. Late in the season last year, I understand he tailed off, but he was a true freshman. He was a true freshman. He's going to get significantly better. You have to expect that. But then at number 4, I'd probably go Brendan Armstrong. I really like Brendan Armstrong at Virginia. He is a lefty, but I am really a fan of him. Grayson McCall, also of Coastal Carolina, is a really good quarterback. He might have set like some sort of efficiency record last year with Coastal Carolina, where he had like the highest like quarterback rating in college football history or something. Maybe, I don't know. You can look that. I honestly, it was something about that. I'm not exactly sure, but that's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger.